welcome to another edition, very special edition of Deep Space Nine at Nine-ish. I am your host, Jeff Mader. We are here covering episode season 3. What episode is it, Dave?
Episode 10.
Episode 10, Fascination. I am fascinated by Fascination. And so are a bunch of other very special guests, and we'll bring them on in right now. My brother, Dave Mader, we'll bring him on in first.
Hello.
Dave, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Are you fascinated by Fascination?
Infinitely. This was like a holiday episode. It got me in the spirit.
Great. We also bring in the tag team couple, Kevin and Ashley Millard.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good.
Good. Also,
Are you ready to talk about a lot of sexual energy within this episode?
Always.
For sure.
There's a lot.
You say it like that, especially.
And last but not least, we have a very special guest joining us. He's a YouTuber, like basically a professional YouTuber. Steve Shives. How are you?
Good. It's Shives, by the way, but that's
Shives.
Okay.
It's Shives.
Shives, yeah.
Oh my
and I like how you say basically professional YouTuber because it doesn't really get any more professional than that. It's like it's basically professional. Yeah, I'm glad to be here to watch one of my least favorite episodes of my favorite Star Trek series.
Well, that's what we do here on Deep Space Nine at Nine-ish. We cover every episode, the good and the bad. And yeah, we just kind of break it down. We gave what was the episode?
Someone else is here.
Last but not least, he's always coming in last. Prayer bow to Jaemeel Robinson.
Easily replaced. It's like he's come. We can get him out. Steve, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, this is Jaemeel. And I'm Dave. I'm off camera here, but
All right, take me off the screen. Come on.
No. You jump in, Jeff. Direct the flow.
Okay. We're here to talk about season 3, episode 10, Fascination. This is the episode, guys. If you guys can remember, that way back in 1995, this is the episode Avery Brooks directed that Waxana Troi comes onto the station. She's kind of like in a menopause state, but because of her her abilities as a betazoid, she inflicts this on everybody within the station. And everybody starts having the hots for each other, and hilarity ensues. Right? Dave, help me out here.
I am.
Yeah.
It's Xanthi fever.
Right there.
That's what it's called.
Xanthi
Fever.
Xanthi
Xanthi Fever. Peldor
Hashtag
joy
Xanthi
to you, by the way.
Yeah, Peldor joy.
Right. So we do start off in this episode. It's a father-son Cisco Jake scene where Jake is actually talking about Kira. So this whole subconscious thing that ends up later in the episode is already planted here in the first scene, that he kind of has a fascination, no pun intended, for Kira. So that's kind of like the first clue, and then everybody has like these headaches and they go into this euphoria that they can't seem to control. And there's a lot of great interactions that we can break down. We'll kind of like start with the first one that kind of starts when Steve first joined on. I was like, it's kind of creepy that Jake is the first one to have the headache and find Kira attractive, and that's kind of when this all starts to snowball. Steve, what do you think about like the fact that like that's kind of how they decided to tell the story, like that whole setup?
Well, I mean, I think by this point, I can't remember, but I think by this point in the series, we've established that Jake is kind of into older women.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Because hasn't he dated the Dabo girl by this point?
Yeah, Marta.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, so it kind of fits Jake's character, and I think part of the deal with the Xanthi fever is that it doesn't just you're not just randomly attracted to someone else. There has to be some kind of innate attraction there to begin with. So it makes sense that Jake would be. I mean, it makes sense that Jake would be into Kira anyway because Kira is great, but he also has a thing for older women. So
and a
good
thing
for
for
Jake.
drawing women. And a thing for Bajoran women.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes, a thing for
That's
Bajoran
right.
women. Yeah. So that's it's if you look at it in terms of Jake's like character development up to that point, it's a pretty obvious, a pairing, and of course, it gives Kira something to be uncomfortable with, which is good.
While she's dealing with the Vedic Barial being attracted to Dax, which is kind of the next one that we get. He's the next person to get the headache, and then he's acting very odd and is kind of going after Dax.
I think
Not
Traditional
kind of.
creepy way.
I think
Very
with,
creepily.
I think with Jake too, it makes sense for Jake to get hit with it first and get hit hard with it because he's a 16-year-old boy. So he already has all of those hormones just flowing through him as a teenage boy that he's going to get hit with it.
And we start the episode with him with a broken heart.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Over Marta.
Let's
Marta.
also be honest too. With Marta, he was punching well above his weight class.
Right.
Yes, he was.
So it's like, hey, you know what? I got down for the count on that one. Let's go again. I'm aiming even higher. You aim high.
Yeah.
You rest in the
Right.
clouds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's I'm going after the second in command to my father. That's where I'm going.
And what in his past would make him think that he can't do that? Nothing.
Exactly.
He's like, I'm the man. I'm going to do it.
He's
We have
bringing
a-
big dick energy in this episode.
We have a moment where Jake is explaining to Cisco that he loves Nerys, and he like I think Cisco kind of takes it like he's kind of convincing me, and then he kind of goes nah, and then
Never now.
No
And-
poetry. I was disappointed there wasn't any poetry. His famous poetry. I think that would have sealed the deal.
that would have, but yeah, just he was kind of Waxana and not Jake in a way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jody Simpson agrees with you, Jaemeel. Saying totally out working out of this movie.
Okay, and then also we have the other storyline in this episode where we have the O'Brien storyline where Keiko's coming back, and Bashir and O'Brien are having a conversation over a cup of coffee, kind of like, oh, she's coming back for 2 days. He wants her to stay, but it was his idea for her to go. And Julian is also saying to him, like, man, like, how many games of racquetball are we gonna play? I can't be a replacement for your wife, is basically what he's saying to him.
Or substitute.
Poor substitute, right, Dave? And that's kind of like a great I didn't think it would happen this fast. Like she only left like how many episodes ago, Dave? Like maybe
Well,
6 or 7.
this is the 10th episode, and yeah, like it was kind of in the House of Quark, right? It was the episode
Yeah.
where so that was 7 episodes ago, yeah, since we've seen it.
Yeah, so it seems like she's coming back, but O'Brien is kind of like trying to come to the fact that he wants her to stay, but he can't tell her that because it was his whole idea for her to go, and she's happy. So there's a great relationship. I think a lot of men have been where O'Brien has been in this episode in a lot of ways, like they and a lot of women too have been in Keiko's position. I found it very relatable. What did you guys think? Like Ashley and Kevin, did you find the O'Brien Keiko stuff good?
How much did he miss Keiko? Like it shows how much he missed her that he's even annoyed Bashir. Like he's wanted to hang out with him so much that Bashir is like, "Come on, man, I've had enough."
Be cool.
Yeah.
The guy who just wanted a friend.
But when she comes back, I don't like this story at all. She's terrible the entire time.
Yeah.
And then makes him apologize for some reason. It's awful. It's
Well, I think there's fault on both sides,
No.
to be fair here, but
He's kind of abrasive, especially when they're in the bar on the top level or whatever. And
that's the
they're
only
kind of
time he is. Other than that, he is constantly trying to have fun and enjoy his time with her. And then finally, I think just at the table, he's had enough. And he's just like
7 more.
yeah. Right. It kind of all comes down to this red dress. Like at first he says like, hey, let's go to the Bajoran festival. Well, it'll be fun, but she's tired and she's only there for 2 days. She actually wants to sleep, but she doesn't want to say that to him. And there's kind of like this moment between them. And it's kind of interesting because like you feel for both parties. You feel for like, I can understand if your significant other is only there for 2 days and it's been a long journey and they just get there and there's a festival going on. You would want to have fun with that person because you only have that limited time. But Keiko is like, you're right. She's like tired. She's kind of like poo-pooing it at first. And it takes the episode to finally put on that red dress that she kind of alludes to, or Brian alludes to. He's like, I want you to put that on. Because she kind of says like, hey, I've been making all the decisions for like 2 days on this journey. Can you kind of start making the decisions? And then he starts doing
But then
that.
when he
And then
makes the decision, she gets all pissy with him. So she can't.
Right.
This is my
they don't
problem.
write
Is
her well.
if she's tired and she wants to rest, then she needs to communicate with her husband that that's what she wants, instead of saying, well, you decide. And then when he decides, she doesn't get to be mad about it because she told him to decide.
I can't disagree with what you're saying at all. I would just figure that O'Brien has, like, they've been in a relationship long enough that, like, as she understands what he wants, he should understand what she wants as well. Like, she's been having the kid with her the entire time, 7 episodes worth of time. All right.
Yeah,
So,
a lot of time.
it's time for him to put a little time in and say, hey, you know what? Don't worry. I'm going to take care of the little one. Right. I'm going to take a little Molly. I'm going to have some Molly and you can just chill. Right. Stroll on the promenade if you want to. You could just not worry about anything. Just don't worry about anything. I got it. Why isn't Molly staying with O'Brien during this time? Why does she have to be on the planet?
What do
Because
you
that
think
was
in the
part of that was
caves?
part of O'Brien's plan to get them both the hell off the station. And then
And so Julian
but now
time.
it's like 2 months later, and he's like, "Oh, I kind of miss him actually." But in the beginning, it was a brilliant scheme. It was like, I'm getting rid of my family. It'll just be me and my best friend hanging out and drinking beer after work every night. And after 2 months of that, he's like, actually, I need more than this in my life. But at the outset, it was like, I've cracked it. I'm going to have the perfect deal.
But did he mention at all that he missed Molly though?
Limited.
I honestly, I'm surprised in that episode from later in the series when she falls into the time portal. I'm surprised they even noticed she was gone. Like, they're not like the most. I love the O'Briens. I love Miles and I love Keiko. I know a lot of people like, give Keiko a lot of shit. Don't think she's I think Keiko is a fantastic character. I love Keiko, but they're not the most attentive parents in the world. I mean, they really aren't.
No, they let their kid get sucked into a time vortex.
They let their kid just wander into a time portal, and then they're like, "Oh, where'd Molly go? Oh shit, I guess she's gone."
They let Lexwana feed her candy for the entire trip. Like, say no. Like, no.
Yeah.
Speaking of Waxana, thank you, Jaemeel. That's a great segue. Let's talk about Waxana and Odo in this episode. Dave, if you haven't said anything in a while, I kind of want to get your thoughts on the Waxana and Odo of it all.
Well, what can you say about Loxana and Odo? What a couple these two make. Yeah, just to bring like, I think that they actually have great chemistry together with these two actors, Rene Auberjonois and Majel Barrett. Like, it's I'm glad when she's back on the show. She's a character I do enjoy. She's the other Troy. How her and Deanna are related is still confusing to me. And what actually her ending, she never quite got an ending. So that I was kind of reminded of that tonight watching this episode, that like I think she comes back one more time after this.
Yeah.
But she's like married to somebody else and it's very sad and she's going through custody issues and it's not fun. So this is kind of like her last kind of fun hurrah before maybe that one, which is not as fun. So, but was that your question, Jeff? Odo and
Yeah, and do you think, okay, is there a little bit of like forced sexual stuff going on here from Waxana towards Odo? Is it uncomfortable? That
not as much as some of the other things in this episode for me, because
Right.
Because I think that Odo is kind of into it, sort of. He'd rather be with Kira, clearly, and that's set up
Yes.
pretty well here. And they're continuing this thread of like Odo's in the friend zone with Kira, and she doesn't know, and that's kind of that they're going for the long game with that storyline here. But Loxana would be with him in a second. that's her. She's like, yes, I love you, Odo. And he's like, you're not quite right for me, but maybe. Like, I like you. You're a kindred spirit and we have a connection and you're a great friend, but I don't think we're actually meant to be together. Like, I don't think of you that way, but I could see it. You know, like, I don't know. That's my thought there.
I think it's like Waxana says it to Odo in this episode. She's like, hey, if it doesn't work out with her, I'm always around. And then she kisses him in the most awkward, forced way possible. And it's probably the cringiest moment of Star Trek I've seen in a long time. Like,
they could have named this whole episode Odo being awkward and weird. I love like when he's dancing to the music and all that stuff.
He wasn't dancing. He was swaying.
Swaying to the music. Sorry, Dave.
Dave, I know you have it ready. Could you read us that quote from Quark? About Quark from Odo in this episode. It's amazing.
Oh, I just read it? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's here it is. I usually make a point to drop by Quarks 3 or 4 times a day at random intervals just to let him know I'm thinking about him. But seeing today is a holiday, he'll be busier than usual. So I suggest you put a man there full time. And I think that about covers it. If you need me, I'll be on the promenade. He's got the easiest job ever. He's just got to keep an eye on Quark. The rest of it does itself.
And it's across the hall.
Yeah.
It was so funny. It was like this script, Jeff, was amazing. I loved this. This is Ronald D. Moore, right?
Did he do the teleplay? He probably did the teleplay.
No, sorry. The teleplay was Philip Lazebnik, but Ira Stephen Bear and James Crocker did the story. Yeah. So Ronald D. Moore, I think, was on the staff, but he's not credited with the episode.
Avery Brooks directed this episode. You can kind of tell it's a bit jazz musician-y. It's a bit all over the place. He's having his fun with it. There's the Dax Cisco stuff. It's weird. I don't know. It's odd. It's like it's so weird. It's also cringe. Like there's so many moments in this episode where you just kind of go, I don't know about this. You know.
Well, it's the physical stuff. I think the fact that Bareil can't stop grabbing her, and like I guess that's the stuff that's really getting to me. I'm like, whoa, I think some issues here. And she's hiding behind Cisco in certain parts. It's kind of playful. It's kind of creepy. I had to ask myself, I'm like, if they made this episode today, like,
right.
Like in like the modern Kurtzman type Star Trek, like what would be different for better or worse? I got to think that would be part of it, that they wouldn't be doing that kind of stuff, even if it was just flirting. Like if they wanted to have that kind of fun, light romp kind of thing going.
I think it would probably, you're right. It would have to be a lot different. But I mean, that stuff in the episode doesn't really bother me. I mean, like, and I think the reason it doesn't bother me when I watch it is because I consider that stuff a break from the Lwaxana stuff. Mm-hmm. Because Lwaxana is far and away, not even a race, my least favorite character in all of Star Trek.
All of Star Trek.
Every single time she shows up in anything, I'm like, oh, it's one of these. Like, I absolutely loathe her. I don't think she's funny. I don't think she's likable. I don't have the least bit of sympathy for her. I'm like, whenever she's like, being pushy to Odo, I'm like, leave him alone. He's not that into you. Like, just let him, even like the bit at the beginning when, you already mentioned when it turns out like, she was on the transport shuttle with Keiko and she was like giving Molly like chocolate the whole time. It's like, that's not funny. She's a horrible person. Like, that's not like charming and cute. Like, oh, that's our Lwaxana. She's a horrible, thoughtless, insensitive person. And it doesn't come across in like a funny way. It comes across as like, oh no, she's just a jerk.
You can see it all over O'Brien's face too.
Yeah.
Like you can see it on his face. He's just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
He knows her. He knows her from the Enterprise.
Yeah, it's like, oh, she's here now. Well, Miles is thinking the same thing I'm thinking when I'm watching this episode for the first time. Oh, great, she's here now. She followed me to Deep Space Nine. I thought I was safe. This was a completely different series. Now she's here. I guess now she'll fall into a wormhole and end up on Voyager a couple years from now. and then they can enjoy her presence as well. So I mean, like Dax and Cisco, like or Dax trying to make out with Cisco, and it being all kind of weird and like, oh no, like that's not like great. But I'm like, oh, Loxana's not here. Like, I'll totally take this.
Yes.
I'll totally take this.
Jody's with you. He's not with Loxana. Horrible, self-absorbed character.
See, it's what I was saying before, Steve. Black and white.
Well, because like I don't mind like self-absorbed characters. Like, I mean, she just doesn't read as entertaining to me. Like, there's lots of characters in Star Trek and in other shows and movies and stuff that are, I mean, the character is like really arrogant or really self-absorbed or, you know, really like thoughtless or whatever. But it's a good character because they're funny or because, you know, they're damaged in some way and you can like sympathize with them. And Loxana is just so repellent that it's like when she gets all like sensitive to Odo and she's like, oh, you know, I wear all these fancy wigs and I dress this way because I just don't want to be normal. And I'm just like, screw you. You haven't earned this one bit. You're awful to everybody.
Loxana is kind of a grifter too. I always feel like she's like a grifter. Like she always has like some sort of rich husband that she doesn't love, and that she's just kind of like
a big important ambassador. She's the daughter of the 5th House of Reeks or something like that. And
the holder of the sacred chalice of Reeks.
Holder of the sacred chalice, and she's a big deal in the Federation. I think
supposedly she's like an ambassador. She's supposedly like a big deal ambassador. Yeah,
she's the ambassador for
Beta Z.
Beta Z.
Yeah.
She goes to festivals.
Yeah,
she's very important.
Right.
Yeah, but like I never sympathize with Deanna more than when her mother is around because Deanna and Jean-Luc both have the exact. They have the objectively correct reaction to Loxana whenever she's around, which is they're always like, oh Jesus. You know, like that's how any real person would react if there was this incredibly annoying, pushy person, you know, who is just like constantly like disregarding what you want, disregarding your feelings, disregarding your boundaries and what makes you comfortable, and just like, nope, never mind, we're doing this.
She's like that overbearing mother, I think, you know.
Yeah.
Why is Loxana interested in Odo though? Like what is the reason?
Because
I think
because she can't read his mind, she can't be telepathic with him. Is that possible?
Part of it.
Possibly the reason?
She says in this episode that she's attracted to stubborn men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
definitely
is
hard to get with her.
Odo is like a walking stubborn. Like he just goes all the time.
That's like his thing.
That's his thing.
Picard was the same, and she was always all over Picard in Next Gen, and he's the same.
But do you think like Odo kind of likes the attention?
No.
No.
Well, see,
I
think the episode hints toward that a little bit. And I think that's definitely where their relationship goes in Loxana's subsequent appearances. Like it's sort of shown that like Odo does have some kind of affection for her. I just have a hard time buying that because I'm like, why are you doing this to Odo? Writers of the show, like, why are you doing this to Odo?
I think he likes her. I just don't think he's interested in her at all.
Oh, I don't think he's interested in her romantically. No,
no, she's no Kira.
No,
she's not the presider over the great festival.
Thank God for that. By the way, can you imagine if Loxana was the officiant of the festival?
I couldn't believe that Bareil wasn't like.
He's like a Vedic.
He's like the bishops here, and you're like.
Another great segue to a question I have about Vedic Bareil. When he's trying to make out with Kira and she's laying on her back, he is trying to convince her that the prophets chose well of Kai Wynn and how great Kai Wynn is. And then he says, no, let's leave spiritual matters in their capable hands. And then he goes in like, you know, wanting some more sexy time, which is interesting for a Vedic to say that.
Well, I also thought it was interesting that that Bareil in that scene was like, I'm jealous of Jedzia Dax and your relationship with Jedzia Dax. I don't get enough time with you. I was like, okay.
We're planting the seed of why he's attracted to her through the headache, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess,
Well,
but it's just
on
like
the topic of Bareil, and I know I'm skipping ahead, but how great is Cisco's reaction to Bareil punching him in the face?
Yeah.
Yes, that's perfect. Come on, man. Don't. What are you doing?
Bareil!
Ryle.
That
Seriously?
was
And then he keeps trying to punch him, and he's just like, just bored.
He's all doing like 19th century bare knuckle boxer, like, defend yourself, you knave. And he's just like, oh, come on. What are you doing? Stop.
it was the best reaction. He just like his face turns and then he just turns back right away. He's just like, "What the hell are you talking about?" He's like,
That's the last time I sell a punch for you, buddy.
yeah,
yeah, I'm not making you look good, Pierre.
I got
my
a hitman.
son's going after my first officer, and now this guy's punching me in the face. Like, what do I have to do?
Yeah, yeah. Dax is hitting on me, and my son's trying to get with Kira. What the hell's going on? He must have thought he was losing his mind.
Yeah, please tell me this isn't just me.
Yeah, I'm not hosting a party anymore. This is not fun.
I don't care if Quark does have tarts.
I guess Cisco is not latently attracted to anyone on the station, though.
Well, yeah, it was kind of interesting, yeah, that but not everyone was affected, right?
No.
Right.
Like O'Brien says, don't worry, I wasn't affected by the fever. I was just a dick just because I'm a dick, like it was kind of like that.
I'm O'Brien.
I'm O'Brien.
Yeah.
I'm overworked.
Yeah,
I'm a little short-tempered.
And Keiko's happy about that.
Yeah, like he's just
Yeah, Keiko's, that's my O'Brien.
7 more months.
Good old Chief.
I know that clip. He's like 7 more months.
Do you have the one where he says he loves his parents?
I loved my parents.
So there.
So there.
My wife is the most wonderful, supportive person I've ever known.
Is he married to more than one person?
Yeah.
He leaves room for future people, though. He's like, "I've ever known, but there might be someone in there."
might be.
I'm glad to meet more.
I just haven't met her yet.
So great. Oh, I love O'Brien. He's got some of the best lines. What else should we talk? Yeah, what else should we talk about in this episode? I think the Bashir and Kira stuff we haven't gotten to yet, and we should probably talk about this. Me and Dave were talking about this a little bit earlier. Like, were they in a relationship yet? I imagine they were.
Yes.
Because that's why they felt comfortable enough to do this in this episode, where they basically, play tonsil hockey for a good 2 minutes at least. I mean, they go back. They basically ignore Odo. They ignore Cisco, then they ignore Odo.
I don't know, but look at that picture. Neither of them looks particularly comfortable.
No.
Well, I mean, they're in a relationship and kissing in front of
On camera, I
a
guess.
ton of people on camera. It's
Yeah. It was an office
Must be
romance.
uncomfortable.
Well,
Yeah,
and
office romance.
it's it's not a movie, it's a TV show. So it's not like they could take like all day to get that kissing scene right. It was probably like, all right, great, moving on.
Yeah.
Like
Avery Brooks is the director. He's like, we got to go to lunch.
Avery
Come on.
Brooks is like, we need to shoot 10 more pages before lunch. Come on, you kissed her. Great, awesome. Let's go. Let's move on.
He just looks at them and goes, Clyde. Dang.
He's over on the side tooling on a piano. Avery, was that good?
I just got hit in the face by Vedic Bareil. We're moving on.
Yeah. Did you get it? Good. He's not hitting me again.
That was I bet you that was the one and only take.
Jeff, what did you think of this with the whole the liquids and this fire ceremony?
I thought I was watching something from Blizzard Entertainment. I thought I was watching like some sort of like Warcraft, Starcraft type magic going on. When I first watched it, I was like, "Oh my god, I never realized they did this." It kind of, reminds me of when people at weddings have 2 different types of sand and they both pour it into the same vase and it all mixes. That's kind of what it reminded me.
Well, but this is how you start the gratitude festival, which is as we said earlier, is the greeting is Peldor Joy, which I guess is like their version of Merry Christmas. But it seems to be also like sort of a New Year ritual where you write down all of your problems and all of your like issues on a scroll There's not a scroll long enough for O'Brien, by the way, and for all his problems. Maybe there is.
Is it kind of like a Thanksgiving episode? I know it came out of Thanksgiving, but it seems like kind of like a Chinese New Year type thing, or kind of maybe I don't know, like what it's trying to do, but it is trying to be a holiday episode because it did come out, I believe, Dave, like at the end of November.
End of November. That being that like between Thanksgiving and Christmas part for the States, so like their holiday season.
Yeah.
And they knew they were going into past tense, which was coming right after this, and they wanted to do something light and kind of a little bit cheerier.
Why didn't Cisco have a bigger role at the Gratitude Festival?
He's directing the episode.
That's what I would say.
I know, but you would think at least a scene, a scene where he has something that he's the Cisco. Like you would think that they would want him doing something.
He hasn't really embraced that yet.
Yeah, he still has the hair. While he still has hair, he's not the Cisco yet.
Well, he's got to lose the hair, go full hawk.
Yeah, exactly.
Jaemeel knows.
Where's Jaemeel?
And then once
he lost him.
Or even like just a scene where Kira is asking him to do something, and he's like, "Nah."
He's like, "No, I can't. I'm directing this one. I'm already in it enough." So
and my son just broke up with Dabo Girl.
Yeah, exactly. I've got way too much on my plate.
I got about 10 scenes with Keiko and O'Brien to get done tomorrow. I don't got time for this.
You know what makes Keiko the worst in this episode, and it's not the fighting or any of that. She gets off the ship and then immediately sits down on the step directly in front of the door where there's people still trying to get off the shuttlecraft, and they have to. She is that person who stops in the middle of the exit door at Walmart to read their seat. Like, what the hell? And the person
get out of the way.
Like, get out of the way, Keiko.
Yeah. And then Molly throws up right at the entrance.
Yeah, it does.
Rude. Thoughtless.
Yep.
Mommy's sad. Mommy's in her room.
Some poor Bajaran, maintenance technician is going to have to come and clean that up. I mean,
O'Brien's like, you go over there, Molly, go into your room, and I'm going to go talk to Mommy through a door and apologize and threaten to resign over this because I do love her and I can't hang out with Bashir for another minute.
He loves his wife.
What a laugh.
What a laugh.
What a laugh.
I loved my parents.
Oh, I didn't get the oh, what a laugh. I got to get that.
No, you got to get that one, dude. That's a must for the soundboard.
But after the festival, Jeff, or kicks off, then it's Jake Sisko with a Jumja stick coming up to Kira.
Yes. Yeah, and then he tosses it aside. He's like, screw this Jumja stick.
I mean, there's no such thing as money anyway. It's not like he's out of pocket for it.
True.
Yeah.
He still has a job.
Whatever.
But still got to work with O'Brien fixing stuff.
For free, like a chump.
Like a chump.
Why do I need a job, Dad? There's not even money.
Yeah.
Why wasn't Cisco cooking?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
his
for
party
the festival.
He got Cork to cater it instead.
I think you're right. Like if Avery Brooks had not directed this episode, I would imagine Cisco would have had a more active role in the festivities, but it's it's like, well, I'm directing it, I'm not doing anything. It's like the way, a lot of the Jonathan Frakes directed episodes of TNG. It's like, oh, Riker had like one scene.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm directing it, write me out of it. I got enough to do.
He wasn't cooking. He had to have Quark cater it because then we wouldn't have gotten the Quark being really weird with Keiko scene.
Oh, that was
hurt
to watch.
Is Ferengi rubbing their ears all over a woman equivalent to a dude rubbing his dick all over a woman? Because
the answer is yes.
The answer is a hard yes. So, yes. And look at Keiko's face. I think it explains everything you need to know.
She knows what's up. She's like, oh, geez, no, God, please.
Yeah. Even
Why isn't somebody stopping this?
For some reason in this episode, Quark has a ton of earrings going on. He has a whole like chain coming down off his ears in this episode. Maybe because it's festival.
Yeah. He's in Bajoran.
Oh, is it Bajoran?
Yeah.
Oh, is that what he's wearing?
He's in Bajoran mode.
Yeah.
He's pandering to the Bajorans. He's a businessman,
He is smart.
Exactly.
Selling them the pens.
Yeah, the pens. Didn't he parchment as well?
There was some parchments. If it read down all your problems, there were what kind of pen was it exactly?
It was like a latinum coated pen, and it was engraved with Deep Space Nine's 3rd annual Gratitude Festival.
Yeah.
By Irma Zim.
By Irma, yeah.
Genuine latinum plated renewal scroll inscription pen. Genuine.
Get them while they last.
Genuine is probably in quotations because that's the brand.
Yes, that's right.
Old Ferengi trick.
But he does one of the most disrespectful things that you can do. After Burrell is knocked to the floor, steps over him. Always he just steps right over him.
He does. That's disrespectful. Right there. Okay, I kind of want to get to the main scene for me in this episode is the O'Brien Keiko scene, and then like the big party scene. But the O'Brien Keiko scene when they're up on the 2nd level is very interesting to me because he kind of picks a fight with her, and
7 more months.
7 more months. And I don't know. To me, it's the one scene that stands out to me. What do you think, Jaemeel? Like, do you kind of agree with me? Like, is it
Keiko knew what she was doing when she fought back in that argument when she brought up her friend, her male friend, right?
Right.
Who's Sabah?
Who's Sabah?
Right? You didn't have to mention that. It's like I spoke to a friend about this, or like, no, she put in the man's name because she knew how he would act, right? This was like marriage warfare that she was playing right there. And so I will agree. I think that that she is to blame for the outcome of this particular fight. That was all.
Yeah, he didn't pick the fight. He just decided this was the moment to engage in the fight.
Right.
That was already going on.
Yeah.
Yes. He was like,
This is my favorite clip, Jeff, right here.
okay.
Go back to Bajor and your plants and Sabar. See if I care.
Yeah.
See you, Mark.
Turns out he cares a lot.
Yeah. He cares a lot, actually.
Oh, the best. Oh my god. Yeah, it's just O'Brien, so many episodes where he just stands out to me. It's mostly when his Irish accent gets going and
he allows himself to be Irish.
He allows himself to be Irish, and I just love like the way he like the line comes off his tongue. It's great.
It's Jeff, one thing I have to ask though is why the extremes? Why was there no middle ground in this conversation? Like, hey, you know what? I'm going to take a leave of absence for 3 months, and I could spend some time with you in Bajor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's compromise. No, I'm going to resign. I'm going to give in. I'm going to ruin my career for yours. All right, so you could have that guilt.
Everything. Yeah.
Okay, I got something to say about this too, because it's a lot like the plot of La La Land to me. You know, why can't Ryan Gosling and who was the actress?
Emma Stone.
Why can't Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling be together? He's a pianist, she's an actress. You know, they can get together, but it was like, no, it can never work. And it's like Brian's a chief of operations. She's a botanist. They work 3 hours apart. It can never work.
Dave, this is you come to this fight with the wrong person. A person who loves that movie. The reason why it couldn't work is because for them to give 100% of themselves to their career, they could not separate themselves from their art, right? And the moments that they did, they faltered, right? And they found themselves when they were apart. So that's why it didn't work out with those two.
So are you saying that they're the same? That they're like
I never
Emma
said
Stone
that. You
and
made
Ryan
the
Gosling?
comparison. You made the comparison.
I made the comparison.
Okay.
But they can't separate their art. Like he's a chief of operations, and there's no plants there on the station. So even though there's a gamma quadrant full of new plants.
Yes, let's go into the war zone for plans.
Exactly. Let's go piss off the Dominion to collect some cuttings.
The Defiant
do it all the time.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to talk to Steve about the one episode that we did a few weeks ago what was the episode where they go into the Gamma Quadrant with the Defiant? They just have had the Defiant for a few episodes, and this is the episode where Jadzia falls in love with the guy from Lost.
The guy from, he was also in the Joker movie. He was Thomas Wayne.
Creeway?
Wayne is-
Brett Cullen.
Yes. That's right. He was Thomas Wayne in the Joker. Yeah.
Jeff's freezing right there for a minute.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Meridian is the episode.
Yes.
Meridian. It's our lowest rated episode so far of Deep Space Nine.
I'll tell you what I remember about that episode. I don't think it's a great episode, but I don't think it's like a horrible episode. I mean, but that was the episode I remember, because Deep Space Nine was my favorite Star Trek show, like almost as soon as it started. Like I watched it from the very beginning when it debuted in '93. I mean, I've loved it ever since. But I did a rewatch of it a couple years ago and watched the whole thing from beginning to end for the first time in a while. And Meridian was the episode where I realized why I love the show so much. And it's because there's that scene when Jadzia has decided that she's going to go live on the planet, right? That phases into the other universe or whatever. And she's leaving. And intellectually, this isn't going to stick. Like, something's going to happen and she's coming back by the end of the episode. Like she's not going to go live on this planet and we're never going to like this. This is just for this episode and it's not going to stick. Especially after I've already seen the episode. Like I know how it turns out, but even back watching it the first time, you're like, there's no way they're doing this. But when she says goodbye to Cisco, and as far as the characters know, she's leaving and they're never going to see each other again. It feels like two people who really care about each other saying goodbye. It feels like they're really friends. And that's, I mean, there are characters on other Star Trek shows that I feel that way about, where I believe that they really have a real friendship. But with Deep Space Nine, that's almost the entire show. Like the people on Deep Space, the characters on Deep Space Nine that develop close relationships, I really, really believe that they're friends. And it's not just Jadzia and Cisco. It's Julian and Miles. It's Nog and Jake. It's Kira and Odo and Kira and Dax. Like they form all these webs of relationships and friendship, and that's what makes the show great for me. Is that I really believe that these people care about each other, and that's what sort of feeds the drama, because you get invested in them and you want them to be okay. Like that's why you care about the show, because you want the care. I like these people. I want them to be okay. So even though it's not a great episode, like that's the episode I remember it vividly rewatching it a couple years ago and going, I believe that they really care about each other and that they're going to miss each other when she leaves.
Yeah.
And that's why I like the show.
I agree with that. That scene, you could tell that Avery Brooks and Terry Farrell, they were both trying to really bring it in that goodbye scene, because they really wanted to kind of make it count for something. But it's also kind of inconsistent with Jadzia Dax, we were saying too, because she's like this great warrior. She punches Brile here. She gets in there and she's willing to kind of throw away her whole life for this guy she met 5 minutes ago. But so that was kind of that was maybe our biggest criticism. Oh, Jeff, it's back. 1 second.
It's contrived. Yeah. It's totally contrived.
So from that same,
the biggest out of character for her. She's this big warrior, but she's afraid of climbing
a tree.
Trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's the biggest inconsistency with that.
Like you're like 800 years old. You've never climbed a tree. Seriously.
So from that same thought process, is that even a glaring thought process that Julian was not working in season 1 and 2, and you can tell that the cast was pretty cold to him as well. So that's why scenes with him did not work, because you're like, I don't think the characters like him. I don't even think that the actors like this man to begin with. It was just an air of annoyance anytime people spoke to him and he was in the room.
I do think Bashir got a lot better when they found a way to make him likable without just like completely going back to zero with the character. I mean, because Julian, he does get a lot better after the first season. He is such a jerk in the first season. Yeah. And it's like, oh, dude,
impressed myself with that one.
Yeah, and it's like you can tell they're doing it like they want him to be like the brash young doctor who's really full of himself, you know. But like, yeah, it's difficult to like him in the first season, and then once he starts getting to be buddies with O'Brien, and he kind of backs off of Dax, and they stop pushing that so hard, and he's not as much of a creep to her, you know. Then he becomes. It's like, okay, I can kind of like this guy a little bit now. You know, but yeah, I think you're totally right. Yeah.
What about this shirt he wears, though? Come on.
Oh yeah, that was rough. That was I didn't know what was going on with his wardrobe. Yeah, it was a choice.
It's a choice.
It's 90s.
Jake Sisko.
Is it a onesie?
Yeah,
No, he's out of the onesie in this one.
It's like a closet.
Okay, but here's we had all like these great like civilian clothing outfits here in this episode, right? And Steve, I'm big on the costume design.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Uniforms. You know,
Dave is a big uniform person.
I'm a big uniform aficionado, going all the way back to when I was a boy and they were putting me in the.
Oh, those are my favorite uniforms.
We did that at
The classic
Disney
Trek
World.
movie uniforms are my favorite uniforms.
Yeah, it's me and our other brother Rich.
Yeah, it's our middle.
Awesome.
Back in the day.
Yeah, those are my favorites. I'm a Star Trek uniform nerd too, and those are my favorite uniforms.
Yeah, I guess I am a big Star Trek uniform nerd, but I like that they got to be out of the uniforms in this episode, especially like. But the only one who doesn't get out of uniform is Odo. He keeps wearing his normal thing.
No,
even though he's a shapeshifter and he can wear anything.
Yeah. Okay, can we mention Jake's shirt? He's wearing like this pink, silver, fluorescent.
I don't have a
mix of a shirt. I have one. If I can bring it up here. It's awesome. I want this shirt. I kind of.
Oh, I have that photo too. Hold on. Yeah, here we go.
Oh yeah. It's like a couch. It's couch upholstery.
Awesome. It's like what you would get your pick. It's like what you would get your picture behind in like 1994 for your your elementary school
photo.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think this is like I don't think it's the first episode where he's kind of out of that onesie, because a few episodes ago when in Civil Defense, when him and O'Brien and Papa Sisko were all trapped in the ore facility, he was still in the onesie. He still felt like this little kid, and you're like, how are you dating a Dabo girl? You know, now he's like, no, I've grown up. A few episodes later, I'm wearing this suave thing, and I'm going right for the second in command of this station. I can do anything.
Yeah. I mean, if I was 16, I'd probably do the same.
Yeah. Until they kind of about halfway through the series. So it's a little bit after this point, but at some point in Deep Space Nine, they kind of just said, okay, screw it. Jake's just going to wear normal clothes. And he started wearing, it was just like sort of like a pair of pants and like a button up shirt, but they had like a little bit of a flap to it. So, and a vest. So it looks a little Star Trek-y, but it's mostly just like normal looking clothes. And they're just like, yeah, we're just going to let him wear nice looking normal clothes. And up until that point, I feel like Jake was the most poorly served character by the costume department, because like, yeah, he had those onesies that he wore for when he was like, little kid Jake. And then there's this shirt that he's wearing in this episode where it's like, it's an interesting pattern, but it's cut so strangely, and it doesn't look like it fits him.
Yeah.
Because Sirach Lofton is a really tall guy, and his shirts always look like they're way too short for him. And it's like, God, somebody please dress this guy in some decent looking clothes. And they finally do, but it's like it takes them like halfway through the series before they're finally like. And I've noticed in the more recent shows, the Paramount Plus shows like Discovery and Picard, they've kind of gone that route too, where they're just like when they're wearing civilian clothes, just let them wear normal clothes.
Yeah, like Picard just wearing
trying to future it up. Just they're wearing normal clothes.
Or they've gone to more normal clothes, which begs this question: like when they do in the Star Trek universe, when they look back on like the 2370s, they go, "What were we thinking wearing that?" Like Jake Sisko looks like an old picture. He goes,
exactly.
It's just not in style.
Like, remember when we didn't wear normal clothes at all for like 10 years? That was weird, right?
Remember when everything was a onesie that looked like it had puzzle pieces on it?
Yeah, like why did we do that? We did that for a long time, you guys. Why
it was
did
the
we dress
70s,
like that?
man. You had
it was the 70s.
Oh, go look at the uniforms in Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Those are some of the most beauties. Like
There was no way to go to the bathroom in them. You had to be like taken out. And George Takei said, "If we have to ever suffer that indignity again, there will be no more Star Trek movies." He made a big stink about it. Apparently,
Yeah.
George Takei making a big stink about something that would never happen.
No. Oh my!
He's such a quiet, deferential sort of fellow, isn't he?
Yeah, he would never.
He goes to the woods, never goes on social media whatsoever. Okay. What else we got here, Dave? Like, are we kind of moving
Jeff.
on? Well,
Yeah, we'll keep going on. Yeah, the party. You wanted to get to the party.
Oh, right, the party. Okay, the party's great. We already talked about the punch, but there's so much more that happens in the party scene. We get a whole bunch of just like, it's like the whole episode came together into one room. We get the Bashir and Kira show up. We get the Quark going after Keiko and O'Brien punching him in the face. We get the Cisco and Dax and the Bareil and the Jake and the whole episode's in one room. I think it's kind of interesting. I think it's kind of fascinating that they did that. It's Fascination.
It's the final act in like any type of wacky slapstick comedy where they have all these wacky things happening with different plot points and they all merge together in that final,
Yes.
you know,
kind of like Seinfeld. Seinfeld did this a lot, where they would kind of like plant the seed, like Elaine does that, Kramer goes and does that, George goes and does that, and at the end of the episode, somehow they all ended up in the same room, and it all made sense. And that's kind of what they were trying to do here, I think. What do you think, Jaemeel?
You had to use that example. He knows the buttons to push. Yes, it is like a Stephen Merchant episode of Modern Family. I absolutely agree. I'm going to disregard your example.
So here's my example.
Yes, it is exactly like that. And you know what? It's a benefit. You see these different pieces and come together, and it just makes like a wacky situation. And you have like Cisco as the straight man, just like, what is going on? And he's just going from section to section. He's just being drawn into everything. Brel and Dax are hanging on around him, and he's like, "Doctor, could you give me something?" And every piece is just kind of working together. And even though Cisco isn't the main character in this episode, he is, because he's a focal point of all that chaos going around him. It's a wonderfully put together scene.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Cisco and Odo episode, because Odo is also the reason why this is happening with Waxana. But yes, Cisco starts it all off with the Jake and the Kira stuff, and that kind of gets the whole snowball thing going. And I do think, but it's also, O'Brien has a big chunk in this episode too. So it's definitely, I don't think you can point to any one character that it's their episode like you can with many of the episodes in Deep Space Nine. But I do agree with you that, yeah, he in the party scene, he's definitely the focal point. Dave, what?
Odo
go ahead, Kevin.
One-dimensional. This episode makes Odo less one-dimensional. I like that aspect of this episode. It like, you see him like, again, swaying to the music and pining after Kira. Like, this is not something that we see Odo do very often.
No,
right. It reminds it.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, it reminds us of the whole thing with he just found out his people are the leaders of an interstellar empire bent on galactic domination and subjugation. He's wrestling with that, and that's what reminded me when Loxana, Loxana, I can never say her name, shows up. Like, she's like, "Oh, about your people and all this," and she would only really, I think, know about that deeply if as a member of like the Federation high up, like of the she would be privy to such information. I think there's a deleted line in the episode about that, and so I think just sorry, I lost my train of thought there with Loxana. Sorry, Jeff, take over. I've lost.
No, that's all right. No, it's
No, but like I like your train of thought. You were going with it. It's Oda was dealing with a lot of stuff in recent episodes. So to kind of to continue to have him stretch his wings. You had the previous episode where Kira was using Odo as her boyfriend stand-in to get our Jeffrey Combs character away from him, and you can kind of see that they're playing the long game, but they're planting the seeds here and there. And this is another episode where you see the seeds are growing a little bit, where you see that affection, and they don't play it heavy-handed. That's the great thing about this, right? There's a nuance to it that they just show that one.
They make it clear though. They make it clear, Jaemeel. Because Waxana tells him directly, if it doesn't work out with her, I'm always around. So the writers are telling us that yes, Odo is pining after us. They were planting seeds before, but this episode I think is the first episode where the writers are explicitly telling the audience.
Well, in any type of like long-term romance show, you have the will they, won't they. And right now it's only one-sided. So they've first established that, there's some kind of affection and bond, right? And then now they're playing into the Odo genuinely has feelings for her. He doesn't even know to the extent. He's still growing as an individual to even figure that out. So she's allowing him to go on that journey, right? And declares it to the audience as well. So I still think there's a little bit unless he declares it and we see it reciprocated, it's still a long road ahead. Long road.
I agree. It's kind of like the will that you're right. The will that won't they, kind of like The Office. Not to bring it up,
Diane.
The Jim and Pam. The will they, won't they, and it takes
dude. Moonlighting.
Moonlighting, yeah.
Moonlighting.
Dude, stop it.
For me, this episode is the first one where you also see that Kira has an affection for him, more than friends, but more than they've ever shown before in the show. They're kind of hanging out and they've got this easy banter with each other. You don't really see that a lot before this. It's the first one I really like that I buy their relationship.
Yeah, because they always do make a point to have a Kira and Odo scene where they kind of acknowledge hey, we are really good friends with each other. And I do think that that's always kind of leaving the door open for Kira to acknowledge Odo's feelings and maybe reciprocate. And it does happen later, but they often do that. They often do we are really close. We're friends. We would have fun with each other regardless of work.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin and Ashley, anything else on this episode that fascinates you? We'll kind of end with, one thing that fascinates each one of us. Since it's fascination.
Fascinating. I don't know if it's fascinating. The one thing, we talked about them wearing the more normal clothes, being out of uniform and stuff, which was nice in this one. There's a lot more color. The cinematography in this episode is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It looks very different from other episodes of Deep Space Nine, and I think that sets up the storyline.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Ashley. The lighting in this episode was great. I was like, why couldn't they do the lighting more like this more often? I don't think they ever did it like this again. It stands apart. Even in the Replimat, which is usually looks like a high school cafeteria or something really dark.
Especially it was, I think, because of the festival, but there was a red, white, and blue color thing that was going on at one point. And it was really pretty in the shot on the promenade.
The lights in the background, it's just the whole thing was it set the mood for this episode.
They were using certain parts of their set, in the promenade, these back rooms, hallways of the promenade. I never see them use these very often. But I liked it. It was more these are the seedier areas of the station where people kind of tuck away and have conversations.
Yes. Conversations.
Okay. Well, I have another question. Conversations. Yeah, or this is where Kira will take Bareil to make out. But he's like, no, I'm not into it.
We didn't even talk about that scene, but yes.
I'd rather go get punched in the face by.
Yeah, I got other things to do. But Jeff, what if Xanthi fever, is this a threat to the Federation? Because
yes, the answer is yes. They need to go full lockdown.
What if it's not like she was projecting? They just said this is when older betazoids project their emotions onto the groups of people, but it could be any emotion. What if it was murderous rampage?
Some older Bajor women.
So not all the time, but it's a threat. You know, it's like as long as it's only making you want to hit on people, I guess.
Yeah, like
not that.
What if Roxana like really wanted to kill her husband, right? And then came on the station, right? That would be the same result, would it not?
We could go through the whole spectrum of like sort of terrible things that could happen and more like innocent things. Like she comes on really stoned and she gives everybody.
Why don't they weaponize
it?
It's the mad bomb. It's literally the mad bomb.
It happens with Vulcans too, so it's something that happens with other species that sometimes makes people act out of character.
I think should be in the manual. It should be in like the Starfleet officer manual. Like I know what Xanthi fever is. I read about it.
It's one of those things where it's like, I mean, and it's one of the things I really love about Star Trek, which is there are things about it that are just made up as they went along.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that quality about it, because you would have to think, I mean, like when they introduced Pon farr for Vulcans in my favorite episode of Classic Trek, Amok Time, like they kind of sold that by saying like, well, Vulcans are really secretive about this stuff and they don't like to talk about it. And plus it's like the second season of the show, and they figure nobody's still going to be watching this shit in 50 years, and they're just making it up as they go along. But by this point, it's like we're 2.5 years into Deep Space Nine. The Betazoids are like members of the Federation and are not shown to be all that secretive or closed off like the Vulcans are. So it's like, why are we just hearing about this? Like there's a disease that older betazoids can get where they spread their emotions to other people and they can influence their actions. And we're just now hearing about this and nobody on the station knows what it is. Like, but it's just one of those things where it's like, you think about it for 5 seconds and you're like, that doesn't make sense, but it's fine because it's Star Trek. And it's just, they're trying to get to the premise of the episode. Like we want to have the characters mix up and make out with each other in ways that they ordinarily wouldn't. How are we going to get them to do that? I don't know. Betazoid something.
Xanthi fever.
Betazoid menopause.
Betazoid menopause. Yeah, they're perfect. Yes, go write the episode. Like that's how it went.
Right. Write that. Yeah, fair enough. But let him I feel like this is a thing now. You gotta you got to deal with the fact that you established in the. I know.
Was it mentioned? Was it mentioned in Lower Decks? I feel like if it wasn't the first season, it almost certainly
might have been. I think they might.
It's one of those little. It's one of those little references. It sounds like that they would love to make in a Lower Decks episode.
Yeah, like in the episode, in the very first episode of Lower Decks, where they all get the zombie virus, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, this is kind of like when they all turned into spiders and monkeys and different things, and like it's also kind of like when this happened, when everyone got like lovesick for each other, just wanted to make out. Jeff,
I have a question. I have one.
Yeah,
question.
Go ahead, Jaemeel. Yep.
Which is and this is directly to Dave. Dave, who had the best dress?
The best dress
you say yes to?
It's definitely not Kira's. I'm sorry, it's not.
That's a new segment.
Who had the best dress? I would say that Keiko's red dress. O'Brien was right to like it, but I got to give the award to Jedzir Dax. I have like a Terry Farrell, Jedzir Dax crush from when I was a kid, like watching her on the show. And every episode where she would wear like something civilian, where you got to see the spots beyond just like the turtleneck, I was like, yes. So
imagine them going all the way down.
Only Brett Cullen knows, and Captain Baudet, and all these others. But even though she like the tights she wears, I guess under are fine. But but Keiko too is good. So it's between those two.
Keiko. Oh.
Kira's is she wearing a dress, or is she more wearing she's kind of wearing like this like robe thing, like
it's actually more of a suit, and
it's like she's wearing a cat suit with like a weird scarf, like sort of see-through flowy long over top.
I
You're
think
also-
it looks nice.
dress.
Ryle's dress is the best dress.
You're missing. Waxana wore 2 dresses in this, so you're not even picking out of those.
All right, she
choosing.
didn't make it. She didn't make it. Steve turned me off on Luxana. So
Yeah,
I was
it's
like,
not.
she's not making any cut.
Okay. Are we getting?
Okay, we getting the fun facts, Jeff, or no? Come on.
Okay.
Oh, I got one more question before the end of the episode. Okay, just when at the end here where he's like, oh, I'm gonna go give like the Xanthi fever medicine to Kira, but Cisco's like, maybe you should wait until after this wears off, and Bashir's kind of like, damn, you got me, or you foiled my master plan. Did you pick up on that?
Yes.
Yeah, and I was kind of like,
He
he was like,
He knows what's going on and he knows what's causing all of this, but he's like, I'm still gonna slide in there.
Wait,
exactly.
are we saying that he would?
Maybe
he
wait.
Would,
Yeah, maybe don't do that.
are we saying that Julian would? People who are around Julian should make sure they check their glasses when he was
Yes.
going through school.
Yes.
you think he's like the serpent from Netflix? The show will be covering on Friday on Super Mario Brothers Podcasting. Check it out. Early plug. Jeff's got frozen again. So when this happened, this is the part of the show though where we go into fun facts with Jeff or double F with Jeff. But since Jeff is freezing right now, we
There's
go
a
to
theme
details discovered by Dave.
Dave, do you have a theme song yet?
I don't have a theme song yet. Like this is new.
I don't understand your resistance to calling it Double D with Dave.
Right.
Dave's double D.
Dave's Double D's. I understand that.
There you go.
Dave's double D's. Well, like the double F with Jeff, the double D's with Dave. I guess.
No, Dave's double D's.
Right. Yeah, I'll give you some facts here, though. No star date is given in this episode. However, dialogue mentions that it takes place 2 months after Keiko left on the expedition to the Janditsa Mountains in House of Quark, and obviously before Bareilles' death, which will be coming up in life support.
Yes.
Finally.
But that
I thought it was terrible, but at least he dies.
Jeff, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, your microphone's. You gotta set
You
your
gotta
microphone.
fix your microphone.
Yep.
You can cue up the theme music as well.
No.
Dave,
Do
no.
Don't put that on Steve.
No, that's just for us. That's a Deep Space at 9 and 9ish original. Okay, so first up, fun fact number 1. This is one of director of photography Jonathan West's favorite episodes due to the fact that Avery Brooks allowed West to try some new cinematography techniques. There was more light on the set than usual. Color was emphasized much more than in a standard show. All the characters were bathed in a subtle pink light to enhance the mood. Balloon foil was used in the background of many shots to get like random sparkles, and purple, a color forbidden from the Star Trek color palette due to its association with old science fiction artificiality, was allowed to be used, which I didn't know they didn't use.
What color palette's that? Like purple.
They wouldn't use purple on Star Trek for many years because I guess there was an old science fiction artificiality to it, and they didn't like that.
Weird.
Old science fiction was in black and white.
Well, really old science fiction.
Yeah, right. It's really old. Okay, number 2. This is the first episode to openly acknowledge that Odo has feelings for Kira.
Right, as mentioned.
Yeah.
Right. This is Armin Shimmerman's least favorite Deep Space Nine episode.
Is it because he rubbed his ear all over Keiko?
Yeah.
I would imagine, and he got pulled by O'Brien, so that wasn't probably fun for him either.
Oh, Brian grabbed him by the dick.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was giving him rough umaks.
Yeah.
That's good.
Quark doesn't like it like that.
No,
Yeah.
he doesn't like it rough.
Okay, so it is revealed in this episode that despite the animosity between them, Kai Wynn appointed Vedic Bareil to a senior advisory position after her election. This information would return 3 episods later in...
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Never
We'll
know.
never know.
We'll never
No.
know what happened, but we'll give you another detail discovered by Dave. Well, that's coming. Oh no, see, he comes back so fast, and then I can't.
Reset your mic in advance.
Reset your mic in advance, please. Yes. Yeah, I hear you. You're back. But it takes like a 3 second for it to like. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, sorry guys. This information will return 3 episodes later in life support. Was that the part you missed?
This information
Okay,
will return.
good. Okay, Ira Stephen Bear says this show originated insofar as the writers felt we needed a light show because we were coming up to past tense. He describes the finished episode as dangerously wacky and says, in some ways, it worked out very nicely, and in some ways, you know, that's
no, I don't know. I like this episode. So
I think at the time they knew or they thought that this episode was really bad. But I don't think it is as bad as they thought it was.
like to Steve's point earlier, where you want these characters to care about each other. These are the kinds of episodes that work towards that ultimate goal. Like when they're going to be up against it, their backs are against the wall. It's not just about those moments. It's also about these kind of lighter moments that make life worth living. Right? This is what kind of like this is the fun part about being in space, I guess.
This is their day off. This is when they're not even working.
Yeah.
No, they don't. They press no buttons. They fire no phasers.
Is it even Star Trek?
Yeah.
Which I guess maybe is what they were paranoid about. You know.
Okay. Costume designer. This will be important for you, Dave. Robert Blackman and composer Dennis McCarthy loved this episode because of the freedom they got to experiment and try things that they never would have been allowed to try normally. Because they basically, I guess, the writers and everyone was like, "This is a throwaway episode. Do whatever you want," and that's why we
got Loxana Troy's here. Everybody's miserable. It's clearly the worst thing ever.
That's why we get the beautiful cinematography, though. I think, and that's why we get some interesting choices, like Jake's shirt.
I like. It's a good shirt. It was an upgrade.
It's the Sears shirt.
Yeah, it wasn't a onesie, so it was an upgrade. Most of the main cast considered this among their favorite episodes because it was a lighthearted departure from the season's overall story arc involving the threat of the Dominion attack, which is that is true because like the Dominion is just ramping up here, and this is kind of like their last like hurrah of having fun.
Yeah, the war.
They're about to go to war.
School's over, or no, never mind. Keep going here.
Yeah, okay. In the original script, Waxana mentions that Admiral Nechayev is the sister I never had and relates to Odo that she found out about his people being the leader of the Dominion from Nechayev.
There you go. It was all about Nechayev. She loves the canopies.
Even if she's high up in the Federation as an ambassador, wouldn't she just know all the secrets because she can read people's minds?
Yeah.
She walks past an admiral and she's like, oh shit, like like she would just know. She knows what people are thinking.
That totally should have been the explanation. Odo should have been like, "Where'd you hear about that?" And she'd be like, "I can read minds."
Everyone
Like,
about it.
You would think section 31 would be all about betazoids. They'd be like, get them, recruit them. We need mind readers.
Get me betazoids.
Tinfoil hats and everything. It's like, oh, there's a betazoid nearby. Got to make sure they don't read my brainwave.
Put your tinfoil hat on. Not reading my mind.
Style hats.
Okay, this is a very important fun fact. Molly O'Brien's stuffed animal, Piggy, appears to be a stuffed Targ.
There you go.
That was a gift from Worf.
A gift from Worf.
He helped deliver her. He's maybe the godfather.
Well, it's not canon because it's in one of the books, but one of the books says that one of her middle names is Worf.
Yo, Molly Worf.
That's great.
Molly Worf O'Brien.
Yeah, it's her second middle name. I forget what the first one, but it's Molly something Worf O'Brien in one of the books.
That needs to be canonized in the next season
Right?
of Picard. There needs to be just a line of dialogue referring to it to officially make it canon.
She comes into lower decks. She's an officer in lower decks, and they somehow mention that.
Yeah.
Have you seen Molly Worf O'Brien just became a commander? Oh, that's awesome
exactly.
for Molly Worf O'Brien.
She gets promoted and they read out her full name or something,
Yeah. Molly needs to show up in Picard season 2.
I think that they should do her on lower decks defending the House of Moog.
Yes.
Klingon episode of her defending the House of Moog.
That'll be great.
Okay.
And maybe one more fun fact, Jeff, before we go to ratings.
Okay. The genuine latinum plated renewal scroll inscription pens, which Quark tries to sell, are engraved with a lovely portrait of the station by Ermat Zim. Ermat Zim is a play of the name of the protection designer Herman Zimmerman.
Clever.
That's a good fun fact.
That's it. That's a good
That's
fun fact. That's a good one to leave off on.
All right, let's bring this out and let's go to our ratings. Bring Jeff down here and bring this up. Okay. All right, Jeff, do you want to give it a rating to start us off here?
Yeah, I'll give it a 6.9.
6.9. I'm going 9.
Whoa, jeez, whoa,
Wow.
I'm gonna give it a good. I'm gonna give it a 7.8. 7.8.
Hey, Ashley?
8.5.
Wow, that's all high. I'm gonna go 7. 1 for the Odo development and 6 for Bareil getting punched in the face.
And Steve?
I'll give it a 6.
All right, a 6. Okay, so between the 6 of us, that averages out at a 7.5. This has a 6.3 on IMDb, which is well below the average. So this is not maybe well loved by some fans. 6.9 when you kind of take our average in that and put it together. So, all right. Let's mention Avery Brooks, Ira Stephen Bear, James Crocker. This is 94. And would you say this is an ensemble episode? It's an
Yeah.
ensemble.
Oh, yeah.
I would say so.
And then heading into next week, Jeff, we have past tense.
Yeah, one of my favorite episodes. It's one of my favorite two-parters Deep Space Nine ever did. I love this episode. It's so relevant to yeah. So it's so relevant to today. Yeah, and it's set in San Francisco.
3 years from now.
3 years from
now.
Yeah.
It's 2024.
Still time.
You're like, it's so relevant for today. I'm like, it is today. It's
We've caught up to it.
Yeah, we've caught up to it. It is today. They've predicted the future. They knew what was going to happen. Star Trek writers are voodoo priests. I don't know how they do. Like it's.
Are we gonna have a past tense party in 3 years in San Francisco?
That's what we should aim for.
In Sanctuary District A.
Yeah. Is there going to be a Gregory Bell or what's his name? Gabriel, right?
Gabriel Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, somebody has to be, Jeff.
Somebody has to be
history
Gabriel
to play out. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we should look for a guy that looks like Avery Brooks and a guy that looks like Alexander Siddig to show up 3 years from now.
What a laugh! What a laugh!
Okay, so I think we should plug some of the things that we have going here on Live Along a Podcast. As mentioned before, we have the original series episode with our father. We do that on Wednesdays. Yeah, we do that tomorrow. We also I know.
Check it out tomorrow. We're watching The Conscience of the King.
Ooh. Look out. There you go. The Conscience of the King. We also Jaemeel and Dave are covering Big Brother Canada. How's that going, guys?
Over on our other channel, Super Mater Brothers Podcasting. Yeah, we're doing Big Brother Canada 9 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Yes. It's Jaemeel.
It's possibly some of the worst reality TV gameplay ever this week. So that means we have a lot to talk about, a lot to crap on. So
all of that. There you go. If that entices
stay
you.
tuned for that. Also, Dave, on the same channel, so, we are also covering The Serpent. We are doing that, I believe, on Friday. Are we doing that? Is
Friday
that
at 7:30 with Mott?
Yep. With Mott.
Jaemeel, are you in? No, you haven't said if you're in for that.
Yeah, I gotta watch that show.
It's a tough watch. It's sit down, get ready for it because it's not like this episode of Deep Space Nine that we watched tonight. It's not that kind of fascination.
Look, truth be said, I have Friday off, so you tell me it's worth spending my day off watching. I'll do it. I'll do it.
You'll do okay. You can do it. It can be done. I did it. I started at 6 a.m. I finished at
It
about
can
2
be
a.m.
done. That's
It
his
can
stance.
be done. You're not telling me to watch it. You're saying it could be done. Should I watch it?
I'm saying it's possible. You have the ability.
What a ringing endorsement, folks. The Serpent Friday. Watch that review.
It is good. I enjoyed it. I was addicted. I couldn't stop. It was one of those ones where I binged it. I actually really loved it. But it is a tough watch. It is. You gotta be really into true crime and be willing to watch some hard stuff, because that's what the Serpent dishes out. Dave, anything else?
Yes, over on another channel on Sunday, Trivial Debates, we're going to be having our monthly channel episode where we argue about movies, TV, sports, and more. Eamon Mater, my son, hosting this episode with Adam Woodward, Jody Simpson, and our mother, Beth Mater, Eamon's grandmother, competing. We got some interesting movie questions and history questions and different things. So they all give their answers, and they fight about what's the right thing to do. And people get points, and they win or they lose. All those things. And lastly, Jeff, also, hey, you got to plug Star Trek Radio Theater Saturday night.
Yes.
We're doing Samaritan Snare from the second season of TNG, from which aired in 1989. I'm back in as Picard. I haven't decided if he's French Picard yet or not. We got Steve Shives in the role of Commander William Riker. Right. We're super excited for this. And Chris Seymour coming in to play Captain Grebnetlog from the Packleds. Jeff, you're back in your most comfortable role as Geordi too.
Cool it, Leak of the Warp Core.
That picture you've got of Chrissy kind of looks a little like a Packled too. It's crazy.
Yeah. And Kevin, you'll be playing the other Packled, Reginald, as well as Wesley Crusher. We got Ashley as Dr. Pulaski, as well as our narrator. My wife Jane playing Worf and Counselor Troy, and the surgeon who's like, we need to get Pulaski here. Basically, he's going to die. But that's the only time Pulaski's ever needed that much. All right, so that's all those things. Do we move? Oh, this Jameel's camera for a second here. Let me take.
Okay, well that's great, Dave. I think we covered everything that we needed to plug. We should probably plug Steve.
Yes, yeah. He's got a little channel, maybe, over there.
A little channel that you should check out. He has some great, basically, you do some great essays on Star Trek. I was watching the one that I really liked was the one you did on disabled people and the representation within Star Trek. I found that amazing. A great you went through multiple examples, especially the one in Deep Space Nine, that the Melora episode. I thought you did a great job explaining how Deep Space Nine dealt with that and what perspective they told the story from, and maybe they did a little bit of a disservice to that story. And you just make some great points, and I find your videos fascinating to check out. And I encourage anybody else that's watching this to go check out Steve's channel.
Thank you. That's really nice of you to say. I'm glad you liked the video.
I am a huge fan, Steve. Awesome. As you know, when I reached out, I found your Jellicoe video first. Why Captain Jellicoe is actually pretty.
Which
awesome.
was the first one I did, the first Star Trek video that I did. So I mean, it's appropriate that that's the first one you saw.
The first one I found, and then I was hooked on to Trek Actually, and also the not actually Trek. Actually.
Not actually Trek Actually. Yeah, the line has been incredibly blurred by this point.
Yeah, because they feel very similar in a lot of respects. But I'm always like, you go through it, you talk about the issues, you go through the different things that I've always been noticing throughout Star Trek too. So it's I think you're maybe just a couple years older than me, so we have a lot of the same shared experience, and it's just I relate a lot with your points. Sometimes I really disagree with you, but that's okay. And
I've been known to have an unpopular opinion from time to time.
And it's only when you say I don't care about the canon. I'm like, Steve, I care about the
canon. Well, that's cool.
Dave is all about the canon.
Dave's all about the canon.
You can care about it as much as you want, and I will not begrudge you, and it will not make me care about it anymore.
I know. And I'm like,
you want it to be.
we can all take something different from it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's there's room for all of it.
Exactly.
So it's great. I love your content. Thank you so much for coming. We're so excited to do this radio theater, and
Me too. I'm looking forward to that too. And thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you. Yeah. And Jeff, you want to take us away here?
So
Jaemeel hasn't come back. Oh, and happy birthday, Jack Millard. I wanted to say.
Oh,
yeah.
I'll let him know.
Yeah. The youngest of the
Okay.
Millards.
The
No.
youngest.
Middle.
No? The
Middle. Yeah, who can keep track? All right.
Barely us.
Yeah.
One of the guys at work asked me how old he was today, and it took an unreasonable amount of time for me to answer that question.
Yeah, when Keiko, the O'Briens are not very attentive parents. Felt like an attack on us.
The difference is we're very young. Our kids are
That's
teenagers.
true. Our kids are teenagers.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so yeah, no, thanks again, Steve, for coming on.
Absolutely.
I really look forward to the radio theater. I think that'll be a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun with the script reads, and it's kind of free for all. Do what you want, and we kind of really we just have a lot of fun with it. I can't wait to do it. So for all of us here at Live Long and Podcast, live long.